Senator from Virginia.
I thank my friend, the senator from Oklahoma, and wish him good travels. I rise briefly today to point out one more time some of the ramifications of the policy that I have called repeatedly stupidity on steroids, which is our sequestration policies. Word came out earlier this week from the Department of Defense that the Secretary, to meet his sequestration numbers, is going to have to furlough teachers in Department of Defense schools for 5 days and education support personnel for 11 days. Now, many of us on the floor of this Senate stand up and praise our men and women who serve in the military, who defend our freedoms. I cannot think of anything that is more of an antithesis of that kind of words we say that we would praise their service if we say, yes, you go off and defend our nation, Iraq and Afghanistan. Meanwhile, your families and their children can't go to school. Well, what it makes this particularly difficult and to stomach at this point is just today, Blue Star Families, one of our nation's best veterans organizations, veteran support group organizations, came out and said, in a list of priorities for military families is one, the impact of deployments on repeated deployments on military families and particularly children, and secondly, military children education. In my state and many other states, military families, particularly on base, have a military DoD school. Those schools provide a valuable service to those military families, oftentimes who have their parents deployed. In my mind, how can we stand here on this floor of the Senate and commend those men and women who serve, but at the same time say, we support that service, we want to support you at home, but not enough to not have your kids have to miss 5 days of school because their teachers are furloughed, or other support services of 11 days of furlough for educational personnel. So, Madam President, I am writing Secretary Hagel, and I would ask all of my colleagues to join with me in this manner and urging that these furloughs of these educators who who educate the children of our military families be exempted from the process of sequestration. I think it begs the larger question that the nation confronts still a $16 trillion debt. I think most of us in this chamber know that the only way we're going to get to a solution is those of us on this side of the aisle are going to have to find a way to make smart, sensible reforms to our entitlement programs. Our colleagues on the opposite side of the aisle are going to have to work with us to find ways to generate additional revenues, or otherwise we'll keep coming back to the kind of cuts that we've seen in sequestration, the kind of cuts in domestic discretionary spending that we're on the current path that would take domestic discretionary spending from 16% of our federal spend down to 4%. I got to tell you, I was a business investor. I would never invest in a business that spent less than 5% of its resources on its workforce, its infrastructure, and staying ahead of the competition, which is research and development. So today I rise on the issue of making sure that we actually honor those military families that we speak so often of, and make sure that their kids get to go to school next year and don't have to lose valuable educational time because their teachers are furloughed. I hope my colleagues will join me in this letter to Secretary Hagel to make sure that these individuals are relieved from this furlough. With that, Madam President, I yield the floor, and again thank my colleague, the senator from Texas, for the courtesy we've exchanged back and forth.
Madam President.